Hey everybody, here we are, week 12. We're still in How It Works. Great chapter, a lot of information in here, so please grab your notes and make sure you stay attentive to Erik. There's a lot of stuff in here. And next week, we're still in How It Works, week 13. See you next Monday.
All right, it's good to be back. Bear with me tonight. I have a sort of a head cold, so if I cough up a lung right here onto the table, I'll be all right. Let's open up with a moment of silence followed by the serenity prayer. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And again, I love the way that Al-Anon breaks that prayer down into God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the one thing that I can, and the wisdom to know that one thing is me. That's all I can change. I've got 3 feet around me. That's what I'm responsible for. So we're in How It Works, and last week I got us right through the listing of the 12 steps, and I did a quick breakdown of those 12 steps. And so we're going to pick up on page 60, right after step 12. It goes on, many of us exclaimed, "What an order! I can't go through with it." Do not be discouraged. No one among us has been able to maintain anything like perfect adherence to these principles. We are not saints.
Hey, look, having somebody in your life that is addicted to drugs or alcohol, it can be stressful. We totally get it. We've navigated hundreds, if not thousands of situations just like yours. This is why we developed the Family Reconnect program with you in mind, the family member or loved one. I call it the ever-changing landscape of addiction, and it can be stressful. A lot of times you get angry, frustrated, worried, scared, just a lot of emotion, but you need support. You need people like us and your peers that can come alongside you to help you navigate this situation. This is why we put this program together. We meet every Tuesday at 6 o'clock Eastern time. We're a few weeks in now, and it's an absolute blast. We love it, and we want to invite you there. So if this is something that you're interested in, go to realrecoverytalk.com/FRC, and I'll see you on Tuesday.
The point is that we are willing to grow along spiritual lines. The principles we have set down are guides to progress. We claim spiritual progress rather than spiritual perfection. And those growth steps, like I explained last week, are 10, 11, and 12. If we're working 10, 11, and 12 in our lives every day, we continue to grow. Like I said, I challenge anybody to work step 10 every day in their life, take multiple inventories, moral inventories, morning, noon, and night on themselves, and not grow. It's impossible. So our description of the alcoholic, the chapter to the agnostic. So our description of the alcoholic was the doctor's opinion and more about alcoholism. And the chapter to the agnostic, we agnostics, and our personal adventures before and after, which are the stories in the back of the book, make clear 3 pertinent ideas. A, that we were alcoholic and could not manage our own lives. That's step 1. 2, that probably no human power could have relieved our alcoholism. Step 2. And step 3, that God could and would if he were sought. And so up to this point, what we've done is we've gone through steps 1, 2, and we're about to go through step 3. So step 1, doctor's opinion, there is a solution. Doctor's opinion, Bill's story, there is a solution, more about alcoholism. Step 2, we agnostics. People say all the time, well, how do you do step 1 and 2? How do you take step 1 and 2? You don't. They're not action steps, step 1 and 2. Step 1 and 2 are simply realizations. Step 1, I'm realizing what it means to be an alcoholic. We admitted we were powerless over alcohol, that our lives had become unmanageable. I'm admitting what it means to be alcoholic and that my life is unmanageable. And step 2 is simply another realization that a power greater than myself could restore me to sanity. So this is where we're going to start taking action. So our description of the alcoholic the chapter of the agnostic and our personal adventures before and after make clear three pertinent ideas. A, that we were alcoholic and could not manage our own lives. 2, that probably no human power could have relieved our alcoholism. And C, that God could and would if he were sought. And then it says, being convinced, we are at step 3, which is that we decided to turn our will and our life over to the care of God as we understood him. So, just what do we mean by that, and just what do we do? The first requirement, so now we're going to get into talking about what it actually means to turn my will and my life over to the care of God. My will is nothing more than what's up here. My will is my thoughts, my mind and my thoughts. My life is my actions. All action is born of thought. So we're going to turn our thoughts, our minds, and our actions over to the care of God as we understood him. The first requirement is that we be convinced that any life run on self-will can hardly be a success. So any of my actions run on self can hardly be a success. On that basis, we are almost always in collision with something or somebody, even though our motives are good. Most people try to live by self-propulsion. Each person is like an actor who wants to run the whole show, is forever trying to arrange the lights, the ballet, the scenery, and the rest of the players in his own way. If his arrangements would just only stay put, if only people would do as he wished, the show would be great. Everybody, including himself, would be pleased. Life would be wonderful. In trying to make these arrangements, our actor may sometimes be quite virtuous. He may be kind, considerate, patient, generous, even modest and self-sacrificing. On the other hand, he may be mean, egotistical, selfish, and dishonest. But as with most humans, he is more likely to have varied traits. And this was me all my life, trying to run the show, trying to organize everything. If everybody would just behave as I want them to behave and just do as I said, see, I told you, if you just listen to me, everything would be okay. And you know what happens is that doesn't happen. People don't listen to me. Because I'm not running the show. And then I turn to self-pity. The world doesn't treat me right. It becomes, nobody listens to me. Nobody ever listens to me. And that's where my resentments come in. And it's going to talk about that here. What usually happens, the show doesn't come off very well. He begins to think that life doesn't treat him right. He decides to exert himself more. He becomes on the next occasion still more demanding or gracious, as the case may be. Still, the play does not suit him. Admitting he may be somewhat at fault, he is sure that other people are more to blame. He becomes angry, indigent, self-pitying, which is the sickest that an alcoholic can be. What is his basic trouble? Is he not really a self-seeker even when trying to be kind? Is he not a victim of the delusion? Remember, we suffer from believing the illusion, the delusion. Is he not really a self-seeker even when trying to be kind? Is he not a victim of the delusion that he can wrest satisfaction and happiness out of this world if he only manages well? Is it not evident to all the rest of the players that these are the things he wants? And do not his actions make each of them wish to retaliate, snatching all they can get out of the show? Is he not, even in his best moments, a producer of confusion rather than harmony? And this is describing how I manipulate the world around me to make things suit me. I don't even realize I'm doing it. But I try to run the show. I try to run my wife's life. I try to run everything at work. And why doesn't everybody just listen to me? And this is the way things should be done. And I'm constantly trying to arrange the pieces in my life to have the outcome that I want. Our actor is self-centered, egocentric, as people like to call it nowadays. He is like the retired businessman who lolls in the Florida sunshine in the winter, complaining of the sad state of the nation. The minister who sighs over the sins of the 20th century. Politicians and reformers who are sure all would be utopia if the rest of the world would only behave. The outlaw safecracker who thinks society has wronged him, and the alcoholic who has lost all and is locked up. Whatever our protestations, are not most of us concerned with ourselves, our resentments, and our self-pity? Yes, we all are, aren't we? All my life I was concerned with myself. They did this to me. This happened to me. Don't you know, I did this, and it was me, and it was just all about me. Selfishness, self-centeredness, that we think is the root of our troubles. Driven by 100 forms of fear, self-delusion, self-seeking, and self-pity. Self described 3 times there. We're driven by 100 forms of fear. Fear of tomorrow, fear that I'm not going to get what I want. So driven by fear, self-delusion, self-seeking, and self-pity. We step on the toes of our fellows and they retaliate. Sometimes they hurt us, seemingly without provocation, but here it is, one of the most important sentences in this book to me. But we invariably find that at some time in the past, we have made decisions based on self, which later put us in a position of being hurt. My troubles were all of my own making, but I didn't see it. It was always someone else's fault. I never had a part in it. It was because this happened, because that happened, because this happened to me. But I could never see my part in any of this. I have a resentment against the police because they don't treat people fairly. Well, maybe stop doing stuff to get arrested. I could never see that was my part in it. Stop breaking the law and the cops don't have to keep arresting me. So our troubles, we think, are basically of our own making. They arise out of ourselves, and the alcoholic is an extreme example of self-will run riot, though he usually doesn't think so. And for me, self-will run riot, remember what our will is. Our will is up here. Self-will run riot for me is the fact that nothing's getting in here for me. It's blocked off. I'm not letting any other ideas other than mine into here. No, 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 no. For me, that's self-will run riot. And so I want to go back for a minute to where we say that at some point they hurt us. We invariably find that at some time in the past, we have made decisions based on self, which later put us in a position of being hurt. Perfect example. I moved into an apartment and I have a big dog. It's $400 to have the big dog. I didn't want to pay $400 for the big dog. So I didn't tell them I had a big dog, right? I lived there for 2 years. And then they found out that I had a big dog and they came after me for the money or else I had to move. And I'm upset at them. I've lived here for 2 years and now they're coming after me for this money when really I put myself in that position. If I had just told them and paid the money and been honest when I rented the apartment, then I wouldn't be looking at being evicted because I didn't tell them that I didn't had a dog. My dishonesty and me trying to run the show put me in a position later on that really jammed me up. I could have been evicted over it. But I was mad at them. And I was able to look at it and say, yeah, I did this to myself. And so I could come up with 100 examples of where I've tried to run the show. I've made decisions based on self that have come back later and put me in a position of being hurt. So it goes on, our troubles, we think, are basically of our own making. They always have been. But we don't see it. Above everything, we alcoholics must be rid of this selfishness. We must, or it kills us. God makes that possible. And there often seems no way of entirely getting rid of self without his aid. And his is capitalized, referring to God. Many of us had moral and philosophical convictions galore, but we could not live up to them even though we would have liked to. Neither could we reduce our self-centeredness much by wishing or trying on our own power. We had to have God's help. This is the how and why of it. First of all, we had to quit playing God. It didn't work. Next, we decided that hereafter, in this drama of life, God was going to be our director. He is the principal. We are his agents. He is the father. We are his children. Most good ideas are simple, and this concept was the keystone of the new and triumphant arch through which we pass to freedom. This is the keystone. This is the main element, the main ingredient right here, is that God is running the show, not me. That doesn't just go for my life, it goes for the lives of everybody around me. God, I turn my wife's will and her life over to the care of you and not the care of me, because I'm not running her life. When we sincerely took such a position, all sorts of remarkable things followed. We had a new employer. Being all-powerful, he provided what we needed if we kept close to him and performed his work well. And established on such a footing, we became less and less interested in ourselves, our little plans and designs. More and more, we became interested in seeing what we could contribute to life. As we felt new power flow in, as we enjoyed peace of mind, as we discovered we could face life successfully, as we became conscious of his presence, we began to lose our fear of today, tomorrow, or the hereafter. We were reborn. It was absolutely exhausting trying to run the show myself all my life. It's absolutely exhausting. I always stood on my own 2 feet. I thought I was responsible for it all. And when I was able to see that, hey, these things are out of my control and that there is a plan and that God's got a plan for me and trusted in that and relied on that, it was just liberating, absolutely liberating. So we are now at step 3. And I want to go back real quick. It says, we began to lose our fear of today, tomorrow, and hereafter. And I lived in that fear all the time of today, tomorrow, what's next, how I was terrified of it. It talks later in this book, it talks about we lose our fear of financial insecurity will vanish. It doesn't say financial insecurity will vanish. It says fear of it will. As long as I'm performing God's work well, and as long as I understand that there's a purpose in my life, and I'm here for a purpose, and I'm trying my best to live up to that purpose, everything else is going to fall into place. I firmly believe that now because I've experienced in my life. I no longer have to come to believe that God will restore us to sanity. I know he will, because he has. So we are now at step 3. Many of us said to our Maker as we understood him, God, I offer myself to thee to build with me and do with me as thou wilt. Relieve me of the bondage of self that I may better do thy will. Take away my difficulties, that victory over them may bear witness to those I would help of thy power, thy love, and thy way of life. May I do thy will always. Now, that prayer became the bedrock of my recovery. I did not know how to meditate. When I came into the rooms of alcoholics, I heard, you got to meditate. And I've got the attention span of a gnat. No idea how to meditate. I start off strong. 30 seconds, 20 seconds in, it's just me sitting in there in the dark wondering what I'd look like as a robot. I'm just terrible at it. But I took this prayer and I started breaking it down line by line and meditating on this prayer, line by line. And I took the these and the thous out because I don't speak that way. And what I wound up with, and this prayer is every day for me, God, I offer myself to you to build with me and do with me as you will. I'm giving my life to you. Whatever, just build with me today and do with me as you will. Relieve me of my bondage of self. I'm bound. I'm held a prisoner by my selfishness, by me thinking that I'm the center of the universe. I'm asking God to relieve me of that bondage of thinking that the world revolves around me, of thinking that I'm the end-all, be-all of everything, and that I'm the most important thing in the universe. Relieve me of that prison of selfishness so that I may better do your will. Relieve me of the bondage of thinking that I'm everything so that I can perform your work and your purpose for me, because I can't do that when I think it's all about me. Take away my difficulties, not so that I have an easier road, not so that I have an easy life, but it says take away my difficulties so that victory over them will bear witness to those I would help. Take away my difficulties so that I can show someone through my story, through my testimony. I was a homeless alcoholic. I couldn't go 5 minutes without getting drunk. I couldn't live life with any type at all. Take that away. Take away my difficulty so that victory over them will bear witness to the people I will help. So take that away from me so that I can go out and I can carry this message to people who are still dying of this disease and say, this is what God did for me. This is because of God. Take that away from me. Relieve me. Take away my difficulties so that victory over them will bear witness, that they will believe that I was like them, and that through this work and finding a relationship with God, I was lifted out of that. That victory over them will bear witness to those I would help of your power, your love, and your way of life. May I do your will always. That is an absolutely 100% selfish prayer. I'm not praying for anything that I want. I'm not praying to keep somebody healthy. I'm simply praying that God put me in a place where I can help you the most. And this has become my everyday prayer multiple times a day. And I've shortened it throughout the day to God, your will, not mine. Your will, not mine. We thought well before taking this step and making sure we were ready that we could at last abandon ourselves utterly to Him. We found it very desirable to take this spiritual step with an understanding person such as our wife, best friend, or spiritual advisor. But it is better to meet God alone than with one who might misunderstand. The wording was, of course, quite optional so long as we expressed the idea, voicing it without reservation. This was only a beginning, though if honestly and humbly made, an effect, sometimes a very great one, was felt at once. So this is just only a beginning, because all I'm doing is making a decision. There's, again, no action here. I'm making a decision to turn my thought, my mind, my will, and my actions, being my life, over to the care of God. I'm making that decision, but I haven't acted upon it yet. The action is going to come in steps 4 through 12, the action steps. Right now, it's just a decision. I can make a decision to go on vacation. I'm going to go on vacation this Sunday. But if I don't go on vacation, then it was just a decision, right? I made a lot of decisions in my life that I never followed through on. And I say that because this is where we find people doing steps 1 through 3, and they make this decision to turn their will and they think that they're turning their life and their will over to God, and they're not. They've just made a decision. There's no action behind it. They've done no work yet. They haven't done step 4 and found out who they really are. They haven't done step 5 and turned all that stuff over to the commend it to the mercy of God and learn who they really were. They haven't made amends. All they've done is make a decision to go through with this. Doesn't mean anything until they take the action steps that come afterwards. So you see people all the time. I turned my will and my life over to the care of God. I've been sober 3 years. Nothing happened. I don't feel... Okay, but did you finish? Do you work the steps? Do you live this program in your life? Because doing step 3 is not turning your will and your life over to the care of God. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12 are. This is just a happy thought unless you do it. So you see people all the time that they do this 1, 2, 3 shuffle. They come in, they do steps 1, 2, 3, and they think they've turned their will because they said a sweet prayer with their sponsor, and now they think that God's their co-pilot, and they don't have to worry about, I've got God now, and they become spiritual, and they're reading books by Emmett Fox and Tony Robbins and the big book over here, and they're lifted right up and out of the program of Alcoholics Anonymous. And why wouldn't they? God's going to fix this. But God doesn't just come down here and do this. I heard a Catholic priest in the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous say one time, he said, if I'd have come in here and you guys would have just said, all I have to do is let go and let God, he said, I would have said, fantastic. And I would have gone home, and with my hands at my side, I would have said, okay, God, I'm now ready to let you make me sober. He said, I would have died a drunk. I would have died a drunk because God's not going to come down and do 4 and 5 for me. God's not going to come down and make me aware of who I am. He's not going to come down and make those amends for me. The process of doing all that is what put me in touch with my Creator. So it says this was only a beginning. Though if honestly and humbly made, if we're sincere about it, I am going to go through with this. Humbly made, an effect, sometimes a very great one, was felt at once. And that was my experience. I did this. I didn't really feel much, but I felt like, hey, I'm on the road here because I am going to do this. I'm going to follow through with it. And then it goes on. It says, next we launched out on a course of vigorous action, the first step of which many of us had never attempted. Though our decision, talking about the decision to turn our will and our life over to the care of God, talking about step 3, though our decision was a vital and crucial step, it could have little permanent effect unless at once, followed by a strenuous effort to face and be rid of the things in our lives which had been blocking us. That's step 4 and 5. So it could have little to no permanent effect unless at once. You know when at once is? At once is right now. Right now is at once. If your employer says, I need you to do this, I need you to do it at once, when do you think he's talking about? So I don't care how long it takes somebody to get through the steps. I care how long it takes them between the steps. So I can't do step 3 and sit on it and think I've got God now and everything's going to go through. It says here, at once, I get to work. Steps 1, 2, and 3 are easy. They're out there. I'm looking out there. I'm not doing any action. I'm just some realizations, and then I'm making a decision that, okay, I'll do this. Step 4, I turn it in on me. I start looking at me. We start putting pen to paper. And we start doing the hard work where I'm gonna see the real me, and I maybe don't want to look at that stuff, but I'm about to. And so it will have little to no permanent effect unless at once followed by a strenuous effort to face, there's the fearless, to face and be rid of the things in ourselves which had been blocking us. Our liquor was but a symptom. So we had to get down to causes and conditions. And now we're going to get into seeing our defects of character. Next week, we're going to start step 4. I'm going to end right there.